Good day and welcome to today's lecture. The topic for today is something your teacher may have already introduced to you, but I'd like to take it up using Gabriel Marcel's primary and secondary reflection. So the question we're going to answer is, how do we philosophize? Or sa Tagalog, paano nga ba mamimilosopiya? Okay. So this is the outline we will follow. We will have a very brief introduction about the relationship of life and philosophy, and then we go right into doing philosophy. Okay. I'd like to start with a quote from a French philosopher, Maurice Blondel, and the quote is, "Philosophy doesn't explain life, but helps constitute it." So obviously there are two very important concepts here. The first one is explain, and the second one is constitute. So philosophy does not explain life, but constitute it. What does that mean? Let me start with an example. How do you make a baguette? No? Or, sa simpleng Tagalog, na Ingles talaga, okay? French bread. Okay? Paano ginagawa ang French bread? Kailangan ng asukal, flour, yeast, eggs, and then you knead and you let it rise for a long time, and then you bake. So ang tanong ko ngayon, so alam niyo na, anong baguette? Okay? Pag sinabi ko, na ganito gawin ang baguette. No? Yan yung baguette. Okay? Masarap ang baguette. Okay? Malutong sa labas, malambot sa loob, at lalong masarap pag lalagyan ng mantikilya. Okay? Pero ang tanong, a baguette is more than its ingredients and baking instructions. No matter how much I describe it to you, no matter how I show you pictures, you cannot enjoy, savor what a baguette is. A baguette is about baking it, making a lot of mistakes until finally you get the perfect combination. And most of all, a baguette is about eating it, letting it dwell in your mouth, enjoying the sensation. Okay? So what did I just do here? Okay? Let's compare it to life. What is life? We have all of these cliches, you know, ups and downs, stages. It's about career, religion, making the right decision in these areas. But have we captured life? Okay? What is life really? The truth of the matter is life is about our everyday, mundane experiences. And like philosophers who love to say it in a more profound way, they call it quotidian. Yung ordinaryong mga bagay na ginagawa sa araw-araw at yung malalaki at maliliit na desisyon, yung mga panahon ng pag-iyak, paggising sa umaga, yan yung buhay. So, ibig sabihin, okay, these things make a life. Walang pangungonsepto tungkol sa buhay ang talagang nakakasabi sa atin kung ano ang buhay. In other words, as Father Freyos loved to say it, Father Filios has this famous expression, lundagin mo, baby. Paano ba natin nararanasan ang buhay? Parang swimming pool yan. Hindi tinitingnan, hindi iniikutan, kung hindi nilulundag. Ang tawag dyan sa Ingles, just live it. Okay? So, this is philosophy. This is what it does for you. It helps you live your life. Okay? But how can it do it? We do it by teaching you what is famously known as philosophical reflection. Pagninilay-nilay, pagmumuni-muni. Okay? How do we philosophize? So let me now give you Marcel's primary and secondary reflection. So let's define terms. What is primary reflection? Primary reflection dissolves the unity of an experience, an event, or a thing. In other words, for you to find out what a flower is, what do you do with a flower? In primary reflection, you break it up. Pero yung pobreng bulaklak, sa kaka-break up mo, hindi na siya bulaklak, di ba? So, primary reflection, however, tells you there are petals, whatever. So, primary reflection obviously is not enough to capture what makes a flower a flower. So what do? You do secondary reflection. Secondary reflection now tries to put together what you have broken apart, so that you locate this object, this experience, within a bigger scheme of things. You know? Father Johnny Gore wrote a beautiful song. It's called, you know, In the Greater Scheme of Things. And many times that's how we understand something, by putting it in the greater scheme of things. So, mabalik tayo sa bulaklak. Paano natin nalalaman kung ano yung bulaklak? Pwedeng sirain natin, pero sa ibang bahagi, nalalaman natin kung ano yung bulaklak. Dahil inaamoy natin. Binibigay natin sa isang tao na tuwang-tuwa dahil nakatanggap siya ng bulaklak. That is not primary reflection. That is secondary reflection. So let's try to do primary reflection on a question which every college sophomore, college junior is wrestling with. And for some of us, kahit 40 na nga, tinatanong pa rin natin yung sarili natin ito. Sino ba ako? Who am I? So let's use Marcel's primary and secondary reflection on this pesky question that never goes away. Okay. So remember, I said primary reflection dissects an experience, a thing, and so on and so forth. So how do we do this? Let's ask the question, who am I? I'm sorry, I used my picture. Okay. So instinctively, when you ask me who am I will say, my name's Antonette Palma-Angeles, I'm batch 77, first batch of coeds, I have 3 children Catholic. So I ask you now, kilala mo na ako? Dahil sinabi ko lahat ng ito. So, pag medyo konti pa, dadagdagan ko pa. Pero kahit anong dagdag ko, kilala mo na ba ako? At nahawakan ko ba ang sarili ko? Okay. The answer is, of course, is no. We cannot capture who we are with these categories, singly or even putting them all together, because in fact, and this is the irony of these categories, I try to enumerate as many as I can, but you can be sure that any one of those categories will apply to a million other people. I say I am batch 77, there were about 300 of us. I say I'm a co-ed, there were about 100 of us. I say I'm Catholic, I don't know how many millions there are of us. I say I have 3 children, there are so many people who have children. And then the other thing is, all of these categories are meaningful only in relation to other people. Let me explain. When I'm saying female, your femaleness is defined only because there's a man. Ano yung babae kung walang lalaki? Diba? So kahit tayo, ayaw natin yung ibang lalaki dyan kasi sinaktan tayo. Okay? Pero sa totoo lang, kung walang lalaki, paano natin matatawag yung sarili natin? Babae. Or kung sinabi kong may asawa ko dahil may ibang tao na walang asawa. In other words, all of these attempts at categorizing and putting categories to who I am is supposed to be self-referential. But in the end, what did you do? You actually were other-referential. You define yourself only in relation to others. And so, I tried to establish myself as a somebody. What did I do? I used categories that were supposed to be unique to me, and what did I find out in the end? I found out that those categories apply to other people. So, okay, I realized then that I am more than those categories kasi marami tayong kakaka-sosyo sa categories na sinabi ko na. I am more than those categories. So, the question is, how am I different? Paano nga ba ako naiiba? Okay? Anong gagawin ko para ipakita sa'yo na iba ako? Okay? Who am I beyond these categories? And what can I say about myself? But this is the problem. What's happening here? If you look at your slide, you'll see that what's happening here is I am looking at myself. Nandito ako, tinapon ko yung sarili ko sa harap ko para makita ko sino ako. I object, I subject. The word object means, in fact, it really means what is in front of me. So, ang ginawa ko sa sarili ko, tinapon ko yung sarili ko sa harap at ako rin yung tumitingin sa sarili ko. Na-capture ko yung nilagay ko sa harap. Paano ko maka-capture? Yung discontented I, yung tumitingin sa nasa harap. Okay? What can I say about this I, the subject, this I subject, when I can't go behind it? I want you to look at some experiences which many of you probably went through, and this experience is a boy loves me, really loves me, and I have this wonderful feeling. I am on top of the world. I love life. Everything becomes beautiful because a boy loves me. And then Have you ever been to a family reunion where you meet cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone, and you just sit in a corner and you say, why do I have this warm feeling? Where is it coming from? I feel so affirmed. I'm so happy. And then there are also instances when after a personal crisis has finally been resolved, you feel this sense of peace, which you cannot get anywhere else. And then there is this experience of having disliked a person immensely, and then one time, back, inside, alam ko na bakit ayaw ko siya. Again, the feeling is not replicable. Anong nangyayari sa mga karanasan na ito? I call these moments of strong sense of self. I realize who I am during these moments, okay? But I cannot capture these moments. I cannot capture the love feeling I feel. I cannot capture my warm feeling. I cannot capture my feeling of peace during those times. No? I cannot categorize them. As Father Roque always says, hindi pwedeng ikahon yung mga karanasan na yan. I cannot capture them in the way I capture myself as gender, religion. Okay? Di ko lubusang mahawakan, pero ramdam na ramdam ko na sa mga karanasang ito, akong ako ito. And so, in Tagalog, it's a beautiful phrase, tumitingkad ang pagkaako sa pakikipkapwa-tao. That is the time. I really feel that there is an I that is out there. Okay? But this I subject emerges not in concepts and categories I use to describe myself. It emerges only in the experiences, only in my relationship with others. So what's the irony here? What does secondary reflection tell us? Secondary reflection tells us that only in relation do I, in fact, aware that I exist. The I here being not just the objective I, but the I that I'm trying to capture, the dissatisfied I. Marcel says, I exist. Sa Tagalog, maganda siya. Sa Tagalog, bulaga. Eto ako. Ano ba yung larong bulaga? Pag binulaga kita ang ganyan, pag ang reaction mo sa akin, deadma. Wala, sira yung laro. No? Hindi ako na-affirm. Pag binulaga kita, tapos nagugulat ka, meron akong kaibigang Jesuita, gustong-gusto niyang laruin sa akin to. At tuwing nagugulat ako, tatawa siya ng malakas. Kasi na-affirm siya. So, ibig sabihin, ang aking pagkaako ay nagiging klaro sa akin pag yung isang tao nakikipagsalamuha sa akin, nakikipagbungguan sa akin. Kuminsan, nagsisigawan kami, pero doon, nabubulaga ako. So that, then, it becomes very clear that existence is an exclamatory awareness. And some experiences are more intense, mas matindi kaysa iba. Mas klaro ang pagkaako sa ibang karanasan kaysa sa iba. But this is an exclamatory awareness of existence, made possible only because of other people. But I cannot go behind these experiences. I cannot capture them in categories, not in any explanatory way. So, let's go back to where we started. Who am I? Primary reflection dissects an experience. So what do? I dissect myself into speakable categories, which apply to other people. That's what primary reflection does. But what does secondary reflection do? Primary reflection, if it dissects, secondary reflection brings you back into a whole that is bigger than yourself. And what do you realize here? You realize that the I, in fact, is going to be discoverable only as it communes with other people as intensely as it can. So that the I is a mystery. To treat the I as a problem is a disservice to the I, because my sense of I, bulaga, eto ako, ay natutuklasan lang kasama ng ibang tao. So, I object, I can talk about I object, but I subject that can only be lived and discovered in a network of relationships with other people over time. So my young students, it's very important that if you want to live life, you have to learn to stop, to reflect, and to dwell. And as Mr. Spock says, if you reflect, this is the only way you can really prosper. Or if we talk about a philosopher, Aristotle will say, go and thrive only because you reflect.